Hello and welcome back to yet another video on the Alejandro Hernandez podcast. It's been about almost 2 months since I recorded my last video. It's been a really long time, and I really took this hiatus because really what's there been to talk about? There's been no NFL, no NBA. I've kind of just taken a step back, watched the preseason, watched training camp, and just watched narratives develop. Upped my stock on some teams, lowered my stock on other teams. I've just been kind of keeping an eye out on new takes to have once the NFL season comes around. And we're getting around that time now when it's almost less than 2 weeks until the season starts. So now is when I'm going to start releasing more content again. And it's going to start with this series, which is going to be just predicting how each division is going to play out in the NFL, all 8 divisions in the AFC and in the NFC. And it's going to start with the NFC East. But before I get into that, let me just quickly state that I released my power rankings video in July, but obviously since July, a lot has happened. Training camp has happened, preseason has happened, new information has come to light. So with that new information coming to light, my opinions are going to change on certain teams, certain players, and just overall circumstances surrounding certain teams. That is either going to raise my stock for that team or lower my stock for that team since my takes in July. So my take that I had in July about certain teams may differ now in August and late August entering September because of what's transpired within that time frame. So with all that being said, let's get this started. Coming in at last place in the NFC East, I'm going to have the Dallas Cowboys. And I believe they're going to finish around 5 to 6 wins. And really, there's just a lot of question marks that I have about their head coach, Brian Schottenheimer. And now the whole fiasco going on with Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones. Micah Parsons does not have a new deal. As of today, both Terry McLaurin and Trey Hendrickson have both had restructured contracts or been extended. And Micah Parsons is really the last superstar player that has not had their contract kind of resolved. And if Micah's not out there week one for Dallas, I'm going to have a lot of concerns about that defense. With Micah Parsons not out there, they go from like a fringe bottom 15, bottom 10 defense to a bottom 5 to bottom 3 defense in the NFL. That's how vital Micah Parsons is to that defense. He is the heart and soul of that defense, a franchise cornerstone in Dallas. And if Jerry Jones can't figure out a way to extend him heading into this season and he holds out, that just kind of sets a tone for the whole season for the Cowboys. So without Micah Parsons on that defense, I've even failed to mention Trayvon Diggs, who is not quite healthy yet and ready to return for that Dallas secondary. He's probably their best corner, so now they're without him. So now they're going to have to rely on Siobhan Revell and Deron Bland to lead that secondary. And just overall, the Dallas defense, they're also without Demarion Overshawn, their middle linebacker. They're going to be without him to start the season since he had a torn ACL last season. So just a lot of missing pieces that this Dallas defense has right now. And I'm not encouraged with Matt Eberflus as their defensive coordinator. He didn't really have a great showing in Chicago as a head coach. Now he's the Dallas defensive coordinator. I'm not really quite sure how that defense is going to look. They probably have one of the worst rush defenses in the NFL. Might even have one of the worst pass defenses. And now without Micah, probably one of the worst pass rushes, as they also lost to Marcus Lawrence. So with all that being said, let's shift over to the offensive side of the ball. Dak Prescott coming off that hamstring injury he suffered last year. I believe he is one of, if when healthy, a top 12 quarterback in the NFL. There's no excusing that, no debating that, especially in the regular season. Dating back to 2023, he had an MVP caliber season. However, his 2024 season was cut short due to injury. And I believe an element to this Dallas team that could hinder them is just their lack of a running game, which is what they experienced last year. Last year was only just, we had to win with Dak throwing. And it's going to be the same situation this year, and Dak's margin for error is going to be really small. Because if he turns the ball over, then they're pretty much cooked because their defense can't stop anybody. So I believe Dak numbers-wise will have a great season because now he has weapons with George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, and Jake Ferguson as his pass catchers. He's going to have some nice weapons to deal with on the offensive side of the ball and skill position players, but he's not going to have a running game. And with all that being said, I have Dallas finishing last. There's questions about the head coach I have with Brian Schottenheimer. Is he going to demand that locker room? Is he going to control that locker room? And their defense, I believe their defense is going to be abysmal without Micah. And even with Micah, they're barely even a bottom 10 defense. So that's why I have Dallas in last place in the NFC East. Now moving on to third place, I'm going to have my team, the New York Giants, jumping ahead of the Dallas Cowboys in the standings in the NFC East. And it's going to be due to a multitude of reasons. We upgraded our pass rush with Abdul Carter, brought in Brian Burns 2 seasons ago. Now we have Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, Darius Alexander, Chauncey Golston. We just have countless guys on the defensive line. And I believe the biggest question for the Giants this season is, are we going to have a top 10 to top 15 defense or a top 5 defense? If we're a top 5 defense, we're looking at close to a winning record or reaching about an 8 to 9 win ceiling. However, what I do believe is realistic to predict for the Giants is around 6 to 7 wins this year and just edging out the Cowboys in the standings. And it's going to be due to having way better quarterback play. We're going to go from Daniel Jones to Russell Wilson and potentially Jackson Dart. We're not sure when Jackson Dart will see the field. I just really hope that the front office, and I know the fan base will be impatient. They already want to see Jackson Dart start, but I just hope that the coaching staff and the overall front office doesn't get impatient and throw Jackson Dart out into the fire, especially if we have a bad start, which I don't believe we're going to have a bad start. I believe we're going to surprise some teams. With how good our defense is, with solid quarterback play, I believe we're good enough to surprise some teams. And although we have the hardest schedule in the NFL, I don't believe that means we're going to lose every game. I believe we will upset some teams. I believe we'll beat Dallas week 2. Week 4 against the Chargers may potentially be another upset that we may beat the Chargers. We have a ton of hard opponents down the line of the season, but overall I do believe the Giants will win about 6 to 7 games. And it's going to be to competent quarterback play, a desperate head coach in Brian Dable, who needs to win games in order to keep his job, and a top 5 to 10 defense in the NFL. I believe that's good enough to get us to 6 to 7 wins, given our tough schedule. And honestly, what I hope will happen is that we head into our Week 14 bye with either a 4-9, a 5-8 record heading into that Week 14 bye, out of playoff contention, and that is when we give Jackson Dart the opportunity to start Weeks 15 through 18. And that's when he gets experience under his belt. He gets the mistakes out, he learns, and those last 5 weeks of the season, he learns and develops, and he's ready to start year 2. But I believe leading up to weeks 1 through 13, Russell Wilson should be our starter, barring any injuries. And I hope that's the outcome, and I'm really excited for Jackson Dart's future. He really showed great promise during the preseason. I believe his best preseason game was against the Patriots, although his stat sheet wasn't the best in his Week 3 game. The throws that he was making were off the charts. The throws down the sideline of Jalen Hyatt, the throw as he was taking the hit to Bo Collins, and he had 2 deep shots at Jalen Hyatt that should have been caught, weren't. His scrambling ability was, honestly, I knew he was fast coming out of college, but it really has translated well to the NFL. He's a great runner. He has great pocket presence, a good arm. He has all the traits you want in a quarterback, and the one thing that I haven't had from my quarterback pretty much ever is just moxie. It's the moxie he carries, the confidence he carries himself with. It's something that I love to watch and I love to have in my quarterback. It's kind of Joe Burrow-esque, the confidence that he carries in himself, and I love to see that out of him. And I know I'm going to see him at some point this season. I just hope it's later when we're already out of playoff contention, when there aren't these lofty expectations on him to perform. And I have high expectations for him, given what he's shown in the preseason. I can't wait to watch that future Jackson Dart to Malik Neighbors connection. But for now, it's going to be Russell Wilson to Malik Neighbors, which I'm still excited about because anything other than Daniel Jones is an upgrade for Malik Neighbors as a receiver, and I believe he's going to put up monster numbers this season. He's on my fantasy team. He better. But overall, I'm going to have the Giants in 3rd place in the NFC East, finishing with about either 6-11 or 7-10. I believe is going to be around where I predict them to finish this year. Now, coming in at number 2, I'm going to have the Washington Commanders. And this might surprise some people, but I'm going to have them missing the playoffs. I believe they're going to finish with a winning record, whether that's 9-8 or 10-7. I believe their floors 7-10 or 8-9. But I have the Washington Commanders missing the playoffs this season, and it's because I believe they're just going to regress in general. I believe the overall team might be better. The team overall, construction team, in terms of roster, might be better than last season. But they had a lot of miracle wins last year. They had the Hail Mary against Chicago. They had the last-second touchdown against the Eagles. They had just a ton of last-second dire wins that could have gone either way. They had so many coin flip games that they had last season go their way that might not go their way this year. I believe their luck will dry out this year. And they're still going to be a good team. They're still going to be a competent team. They're going to put up a lot of points, but I believe their biggest weakness is their defense. I believe, likewise to Dallas, they have probably a bottom 5, bottom 3 defense in the NFL. Their secondary is just burnt toast. They have no talent in the secondary, specifically at the safety position. Outside of Marshawn Lattimore, who's already old, they really don't have much cornerback help. And their pass rush is probably one of the worst in the NFL. They didn't really address that this offseason. They really focused on the offensive side of the ball. So I do believe Jaden will be great. And they obviously just re-signed Terry McLaurin, so that's no longer in question. They have Terry McLaurin. They have Debo Samuel now, which is a big addition. Zach Ertz, a newly improved offensive line with Laramie Tunsil and Josh Connerly. Their offense is not the question for me. I know their offense is going to be great. I just have a lot of questions on the defensive side of the ball for the Washington Commanders. And a lot of those coin flip games that went their way last season, I don't believe will go their way this season. So that's why I'm going to have Washington regressing. If I had to predict their record, I'd say 9-8, but just barely missing out in the playoffs given how competitive I believe the NFC is going to be this season. So yeah, I'm going to have the Commanders finishing 9-8 and second place in the NFC East. And coming in at first place in the NFC East, this is a no-brainer. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to have them around 12 to 13 wins, possibly even 14. And although they lost a lot of pieces on the defensive side of the ball, I just see them being a great team. They were an all-time great team last season. I don't really see them regressing this season. They maintain all of their key pieces on offense. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, that brilliant offensive line. Losing Landon Dickerson to injury is kind of a big loss for them, but I believe that they have so much talent and depth on the offensive line that won't really hurt them as much as it might hurt other teams losing a key piece like that. But I do believe Jalen Hurts will have a good season, and Saquon Barkley is going to have an excellent season as long as they stay to their formula, stick to their identity, which is running the football, playing off play action. Keeping Hurts to about 20 to 25 pass attempts per game is their winning formula. And they're going to play great defense with Vic Fangio as their defensive coordinator. Although they lost a ton of pieces like Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Darius Slay, there's cornerback 2 spot is a question mark for them. They have Cooper DeJean in the slot and Quinyon Mitchell on the outside. That cornerback 2 position is a little bit of a question mark, and that could be attacked by their opponents. But their linebacking core is still excellent with Zach Bond, who was an All-Pro last season. Their defensive line still has Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. They still have a ton of talent there. And yeah, I believe although the Eagles lost defensive talent, they're going to be just fine. And they're going to be one of the top seeds in the NFC once again. And that is going to be it for this video. Just to quickly summarize everything, I'm going to have the Eagles finishing in first place, the Commanders finishing in second place, missing the playoffs with about a 9-8 to 8-9 record. The Giants with a promising season as I believe they will retain Brian Dable and Joe Shane past this season and enter the Jackson Dart era next season in 2026. But they're going to finish around 6-11 and 7-10, and the Dallas Cowboys coming in last place with about 5 to 6 wins under their belt this season, with Dak Prescott putting up monster numbers, but it not mattering as it's all going to be in garbage time due to their horrible defense. And that is going to be it for this video. I will see you guys next time when I release my video predicting the NFC West. But until then, I will see you guys next time.